The Time and Space of Uncle Albert by Russell Stannard. First published 1989 by Faber and Faber Limited. Chapter 8. A Bit of Real Science. You have now heard the story of Uncle Albert and Gedanken. To end with, you might like to hear something about another scientist, this time a real one. Albert Einstein. He was one of the greatest scientists who ever lived. He completely changed our ideas of space and time. It was he who actually discovered the effects described in our story. These effects really do happen. Indeed, they happen all the time, in ordinary, everyday life. But it is only at the very high speeds to be found in modern scientific laboratories that they become noticeable. For example, there have been experiments with radioactive material. This is a material that breaks up after a certain period of time. If, instead of leaving it standing still, this material is made to go at a speed almost close to the speed of light, it breaks up more slowly. In one recent experiment, 30 times slower than normal. This is due to the internal timekeeping ability of the material slowing down, in just the same way as Gedanken's clock slowed down on her journey to Jupiter. It has also been shown that the speed of light really is a barrier that we cannot pass. In one experiment, the lightest known particle, the electron, was pushed by a force that should, according to the old laws of nature, have taken it up beyond the speed of light after the electron had travelled only a few centimetres. But in practice, it was still not quite enough at that speed after being pushed for a distance of 3 kilometres. Instead, it became heavier, just like Gedanken's space capsule. In fact, it became 40,000 times heavier than normal. Finally, you might like to know that, as a result of Einstein's idea that all matter is a locked-up form of energy, scientists have gone on to invent nuclear bombs, something that upset Einstein very much, he himself being a peace-loving man. All these effects arise out of a rule known as the Principle of Relativity. This says that the laws of nature are the same for everyone, in steady relative motion. Once you accept that, together with the idea that the speed of light is always the same, then everything else follows. What you have learned about is called the special theory of relativity. It was discovered by Einstein in 1905. That was a long time ago, but even today there are still very few people in the world who actually understand it. You are now one of them. It is called the special theory because it applies specially to motion that is steady. Einstein was later to include the effects of changing one's motion, and this gave rise to further remarkable discoveries about space and time, these being contained in his general theory of relativity. Einstein made his discoveries not by finding new experimental results, but by making use of results that were already well known. His cleverness lay in being able to see in these results deep consequences that others had overlooked. His discoveries were the kind that made one feel like kicking oneself and saying, "Why ever did I not think of that myself?" One of Einstein's ways of working things out was to take the laws of nature as they were understood at the time and imagine them in unusual, fictitious situations, such as, for instance, trying to imagine what it would be like to catch up with a light beam. In this way, he was led to discover that the old laws could not make sense of these situations. So this, in turn, led him to revise the laws of nature. This use of his imagination came to be known among fellow scientists as Einstein's thought experiments, or, in his native German language, Gedanken experiments. Thank you very much for listening to The Time and Space of Uncle Albert. This has been a really interesting read, not only for me, but I hope for you as well. As always, your comments and likes and subscribes are always appreciated. I will continue to do new projects as soon as they're available, and like, share and subscribe for more from Mr. Chapman Reads in the future. Thank you very much.